Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher, or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WhoKnewPodcast. All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com. You can leave comments there, or email us at whoknewpodcast@gmail.com. We also have an Instagram and Twitter account. Tweet at us at whoknewpodcast, and find us on Facebook. Today's episode is episode 8 of season 5, The Hungry Earth. Humans are not the only sentient beings native to Earth. The Homo reptilian Silurian race have awoken to stake their claim on the planet. This episode is written by Chris Chibnall, directed by Ashley Way. It originally aired on the 22nd of May 2010 and was watched by 4.5 million viewers. Hi, this is Eugene. Let's introduce ourselves.
This is Josh.
This is Frank.
This is Kelsey waving to you from the past.
Hello, this is Auburn.
This is Brian.
In a remote town in South Wales in 2020, a mining company drills deeper into the earth than ever before. Holes begin to appear around the dig site, and something pulls one of the workers, a man named Mo, down into the earth before the hole seals itself up.
Hey, Mo.
I thought the hand through the ground was cool. I mean, I know how they did it. They just flipped the shot, but I thought that was a great visual.
Oh, I didn't know how they did it. That's cool. What do you mean? What do you mean by they flipped the shot?
They could have also turned the camera upside down.
Or that it's a hand coming through the ground the normal way, like a zombie would come out of the grave, and then they just flip the shot, or like Josh said, reverse the camera. So it looks like it's coming through the Earth's crust into the core. And I thought that was a cool way to illustrate, like, there's something down there that's not normal.
Considering the title of the episode, The Hungry Earth, and the thing pulls it under like the Earth ate him, I remember watching this originally and thinking how creepy and weird it was, but knowing what actually happens took the whole creepiness out of it for me, because it's so sci-fi. And when usually when I know what's going on and I watch these episodes, I still get a feeling of, oh, that's really weird. But this time watching it, full well remembering what happens, I was like, all right, that's a stupid guy.
Well, because they're trying to amp up, like, what could it be that's scary?
And which they totally should.
Yeah.
I just found it funny, like, this isn't freaking me out at all.
So at the beginning of this, we got a text on the screen telling us where it's located and the time, because this takes place in 2020, which was 10 years into the show's future. We've almost caught up here in the present. But is this a real Welsh town? Because I don't think anybody on the show did try to say the name of it.
Well, but this is pretty typical for Welsh words.
Okay.
So it might not be a real Welsh town, but trust me, there is a lot worse. They probably picked this one because it's easier than most.
It's spelled CWMTAFF. So A being the only vowel is very typical for us. And
Yeah.
I think it's pronounced Steve, but I'm not sure. I did put it in Google Translate, and they said it was Cumtef, but I don't know if that's right or not, using the W as a U sound.
I thought it was off.
The other thing that was cool about this cold open, because I did kind of watch them out of order-ish and then went back. They both start, this and the next part, which is a two-parter, both start with like narration of a story.
Right.
But different narration.
Yes. But they kind of, like, this one is Mo reading a storybook to Elliot.
Right.
Where the next one has a different narrator. We can talk about it when we get there.
And the book was Gruffalo, which I don't...
I think it was
Gruffalo.
Gruffalo?
Oh, yeah.
By
Sorry.
Julia Donaldson.
Okay.
They made a movie of it.
Because that phrase he said sounded very familiar to me.
Chapter 1.
In the beginning.
I've heard that before.
Once upon a
It seems so familiar. But who is this creature with terrible claws, terrible teeth, and his terrible jaws?
Yeah.
The cadence of something else.
The cadence of a nice kid's book. So, but it seems so familiar. But I don't remember hearing this book or movie before.
It's not a very old book. I mean, I think it kind of came out around that time, actually.
But it was nice to having a nice little family to start it off, and that he's dyslexic and can't read, so he's listening to audiobooks all the time, setting that up. So it was just a nice little town, and then things go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Basic setup.
So the Gruffalo was originally published in 1999, so it was about
Even 10 years prior.
10 years prior, yeah.
I've never heard of the book, but
Shooting for Rio, the TARDIS lands in South Wales, to the occupants' surprise. The Doctor senses something is wrong. The ground doesn't feel like it should. Rory is worried about Amy losing her engagement ring and returns it to the TARDIS as Amy and the Doctor go to the mining rig. As Rory exits the TARDIS, Moe's wife Ambrose confuses him for a detective who she has called to help find the missing coffin of her aunt. She and her son Elliot take him to the gravesite. Her uncle had just passed and was to be buried on top of her aunt's grave. The ground was never disturbed, but when they dug down, her aunt's coffin was missing. Elliot believes that it must have been taken from underneath.
The beast below.
Well, he thinks that he actually says that he thinks the ground is eating people. The earth is eating people. I can't remember exactly how he put it.
When you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth.
Thank you.
That's coming from a dyslexic kid.
That would be Spock in Star Trek 6.
I really liked the whole Rory decision making. Few seconds of like, is he going to go along with this or not? And he's, I found it very charming.
I almost hear his inner monologue kind of going,
Right.
when in Rome.
Yeah.
Right.
It seems to work for Amy.
It was almost like he wasn't verbally quick enough to come up with a rational excuse to say he's not, so he just
Right.
went silently along with it because he couldn't figure out what to do or say.
Which I think was such great acting in just the response without having to say a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
just, you could see all the stuff going on. He really emoted that well.
Well, the thing I love about his character, and even when he was in the grave talking with them, was that he never seemed stupid or dumb. He just seemed tongue-tied. And then earlier on, he'd freak out about what's happening, but everything that he was saying, he would never be like, what's going on? What is all this? He would be saying, this is happening. This is time travel. These are dinosaurs, or whatever he would say. We didn't get there yet. He always knew what was happening, and that's what I like about him.
Yeah, I just want to say at this point in the season, I am loving Rory. Like,
Yes.
I'm so happy that he's along for the ride in the TARDIS. I'm so happy to have him as a companion. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, too, what I've been saying over these last few episodes, is we don't know how likable Amy is yet because she's still in the unlikable phase of her character.
I mean, the whole idea of taking the ring to bring it back into the TARDIS to be safe is contrived, is set up for story plots later on and to separate them. But I think it really was done well. The way they were acting was, okay, I'd buy that. He would be like, no, we're not going to lose this. I am going to put it somewhere safe.
I like his lines like that. I think he said, cost a lot of money, that. The way he said it was just funny.
That's a British thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard,
Before that, when they wave to the future selves, I really like that. I don't know why. And it reminded me of Father's Day when the Doctor says, because they're waving at their future selves, and the comments are like, "Oh, we're together. We're still together in 10 years. Let's go talk to us and see what's gonna happen." And then the Doctor says, "You should, stops her. You shouldn't go see yourselves because things can get very complicated." And it reminded me of Father's Day, of how there was two sets of themselves in the 80s.
Does that have a payoff later on? I can't recall.
I think the payoff is going to happen in the second episode rather than what I think Josh is thinking.
I mean
After
way,
this.
way
Yes.
down the line.
And that's what I mean.
After the two-parter.
And I think your question, Josh, is no.
And that's what I don't like about it. It's done as a stunt for these episodes.
Yeah.
And it's not really addressed or brought back or explained later on.
I don't know. Is it just me, or does anybody else feel that, it might be Chibnall's writing? Now that we've seen more of his writing, it kind of does match. Doesn't it just seem like everything is a little different, a little not your typical Doctor Who? It's like, it's not wrong, but like, why, another Doctor, another episode, if the Doctor saw his companions 10 years later, across the way, he wouldn't just be casual about it. He'd be like, what's going on? Why is that happening? You're not supposed to do that. That's against the rules, kind of a thing. Don't you know how dangerous that is? And to hear it is just kind of like a plot contrivance. Kind of bugging
Yeah,
me.
I agree. Now that I know from what you just told me that there isn't a payoff for it later, I thought if it was something down the line, like a Bad Wolf situation where they're setting something up, if it's just a thing to put in there because it's kind of weird, it's cool that it's kind of weird, but you're right. It's usually anything that's made a point to be stopped and looked at is woven into the story. This just wasn't.
Chris Chibnall, he's the showrunner for Jodie Whittaker's season. He also did Torchwood.
Yeah, he did 2 episodes of Torchwood, and he did episode 42 with Martha before he did The Hungry Earth.
And he also did Broadchurch, didn't he?
I think that comes later.
Yeah, much later.
Yeah. But back to just that image of them waving at each other, it also I think I had seen the movie, it's a Spanish movie called Time Crimes, where a similar thing happens, so it reminded me of that, and I wanted that to pay off similar to the movie Time Crimes, but it never does.
I think it does help separate Amy and Rory from the past companions too. Like there is something different about the two of them. Like just the way that they're interacting with the doctor and each other, and they're outside of time. Like Amy with the soldiers. They're just new to me as a viewer who's only seen the new series. There definitely feels like there's something different about them than we had with Rose and Donna and Martha.
Yeah. On first viewing, that's super cool. But now knowing, I'm like, oh, what's that? There's no point to that.
Well, I did like that it allowed Amy to say to Rory, like, it always works out fine.
Right.
Because they believe, like, oh, that's us 10 years in the future, so everything's going to be hunky-dory for 10 years, and by the end of this.
And story-wise, that's really good.
Except Amy's surprised at it. Oh, well, we're still together in 10 years?
Wow,
so that's another part of why
we don't
a lot
like
of
her.
us, or I don't like Amy, up to this point. She's just you're getting married tomorrow.
Yeah.
Always a tone of surprise.
Well, and she just made her choice in the last episode for
Right.
Rory. So she is like, yeah, she's wishy-washy on that arc of like, what does she really want?
I feel like I would have the same reaction.
Really?
If,
How happy
if
do I
Oliver
look
and
over
I
there?
saw each other, I'd be like, "Oh, cool!" Like, and I understand she didn't say, "Oh, cool." She just said, "Oh,
She was surprised,
we're still
yeah.
together." But I feel like
It did work out.
I don't know,
Despite
but-
all my doubts.
But that's Amy and Rory's dynamic.
Yeah.
She calls him stupid.
Yeah, she called him idiot.
Like
That was
she
a-
calls him idiot. I guess
But
not
she
stupid. She
doesn't
calls
mean
him
it-
idiot. You idiot. She has a very playful demeanor with her fiance.
Yeah, but I didn't take it so much as sarcasm in that moment. She was genuinely like, "Oh, okay."
I don't think Amy's thinking that far ahead.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's
Good
the
point.
the idea of it sounds good, but like to actually see it manifested in front of you.
She would go rushing up to see her 10-year in the future self and just have a blast with it and not consider any of the consequences for fun. She would just do it for fun. Now, Amy, I don't know if Amy would do that in the end, later. But here at this point, yeah, she wants to have fun with it.
Now that we've had this discussion about that particular waving scene, it made me think of something that's coming up soon, so we'll revisit this. For some reason, the drill stopped during the night. Nazreen Chandri and Tony Pack, scientists leading the drill, arrive and cannot find Mo. They find the hole in the concrete floor, but it is filled with dirt. They are able to turn the drill back on. The doctor looks at the computer readings from the now operational drill and sees the earth below the building is moving. He tells everyone to get out, but at that moment, more shaking causes additional holes to appear. Tony starts to sink in one of them. Amy goes to help him, but the ground below her begins to sink as well. Nazreen helps Tony out, and the doctor, who is holding on to Amy, tells them to shut down the drill. But Amy sinks below the surface and is swallowed by the earth.
I do feel that this story arc feels a bit more simple than a lot of the Doctor Who episodes, even the ones we don't like. Like, the story just feels a little bit more traditionally told.
It does seem like a very classic Doctor Who storyline where it's like we go on these rambling tangents that never amount to anything, like the Fourth Doctor running through jungle for an entire 30 minutes. Like this, they're at the grave site and they're talking about, the aunt's coffin was disappeared, and I know that's just to set up that there's something underneath that's digging up, but we never come back to this.
Yeah, we never find out like why it would be specific to graves. Like,
Yeah,
we
it
never
just
come
is
back to
dropped.
that.
And there's a few things like that in this episode where it's like you guys are padding this to make it 2 parts.
Well, the thing is that they're trying to set up the hungry earth. What is stealing people when actually a coincidence is what's stealing people? Like, even Mo, like, it wasn't after him. He just happened to
be there.
to poke his head, into the gravity well or whatever it was.
Another thing that makes me think of Classic Who is the way Amy gets taken out. It's kind of like we just did the resurrection of the Daleks, and then you had to find a way to get Turlo separated from the rest of the group. But I thought that this was a good way to get Amy separated. You see her motivation in wanting to help out Tony. And that brings me to the waving of the future selves. It made me think in that moment that the doctor's saying, like, get out, but then Amy goes back to help Tony. Having seen herself 10 years from now,
Right.
it's like motivation for her to say, I'll be fine if I help him.
Right.
So maybe that's
I
what
thought
it
that
was.
I'm jumping ahead slightly. When we see what happens to Amy in just a little bit, and she's upset by the situation, I was waiting for her to remind herself, no, everything will work out because I know I'm okay in 10 years. And she didn't say that. And again, it was like if it was just that would have been enough to give that scene with the waving more meaning.
Yes.
That Amy's being more brazen during the story as a result of that.
Yeah,
So.
if they had,
Tied it in somehow.
I think that would have worked better.
But the fact it's there is still cool, and like you said, like we can sort of think that into that is what she was thinking. Which
I'm not giving her that much credit.
her.
No, the doctor had a great line. Brian, do you want to say it? When he's trying to explain things to Tony and Tony's not getting it.
Oh, the doctor says, I am making perfect sense. You're just not keeping up.
Yes. I just love that bit going, wait a minute. And that puts in the reaction to Nazreen. Her reactions to everything that's going on is priceless. I mean, it reminds me of Norma Desmond. I speak with my eyes, kind of thing, where so much comes through and that she's listening to the doctor and getting what he's saying and just being kind of in awe, not of him, but of what's going on and what he's saying. But wait a minute, this is a whole different way of looking at everything.
When Amy is thinking, I did not like the doctor promising her that he wasn't going to let go, she's going to be okay. And that went on for a while. And every time it's like there's a lot of loss in these two episodes. And I feel like the doctor, Rory, Amy all want everyone else to trust them and their ability to overcome like whatever obstacle goes their way, especially because at the beginning they see in 10 years we're going to be fine, look, right there we are. But like this is the point where it's like things aren't okay. Amy is gone, and the doctor, like as the audience we know it's going to be okay because people disappear and come back. We didn't actually see her die, and we know that there's a mystery happening. But I was really like not happy with the doctor during this because he's making promises that he can't keep.
It almost felt like that was some remnants of the old doctor who would have said that and we would have believed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's not going to let anything happen. But this doctor has screwed up so much in these first few episodes. But I think it's almost like he doesn't realize he's not that other guy anymore. And it would have been another perfect place for him to say, everything's going to be fine in 10 years. So, whatever happens, it's just it's just, yeah.
But he knows that
time is wibbly and wobbly.
Right.
But she could have said, we'll be fine in 10 years. And then he could have said, well, time isn't always like that.
Well, actually,
she's
you could die
sinking
here.
Well, not at that moment. Maybe another instance.
I mean, I know we're joking, but that could have been played for drama.
Yeah.
Because her hand and the doctor, they're holding hands, and she could have said, this isn't supposed to happen. I saw that I lived through this in 10 years. Why am I going to die now? And I thought, that could have been better.
You won't die. I won't let it happen. Or
Yeah.
It was a lost opportunity. And it's those moments that we're talking about right now that when they are there in these episodes, that's what makes this show so special.
Yeah.
And I think, Brian, this goes along with what you were saying. Like, that's what's making this episodes feel different is there weren't those moments like that.
Yeah, this doctor feels very much the doctor from The Beast Below. His first real episode. They're still not. It just feels like they haven't gotten a hang of the doctor's character yet.
But that's
and
okay.
he is making mistakes and things. But at this point in time, we've watched Amy's Choice, and we've watched where Matt Smith has gotten a handle on the character. They're writing the character. He's not as brusque. He's not.
Well, like you said, I mean, who knows when Chris Chibnall wrote this? And you'll hear in many commentaries and shows and movies like, yeah, we realized we should have put this in after the fact.
Yeah.
TV schedule. I mean, whatever.
I just want to point out how Amy keeps mentioning that she should be in Rio, which is why I guess she's in those short shorts.
Yeah.
But I feel like this outfit of hers really isn't that different
It's
than
not.
all the outfits I've seen her in so far.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I just thought that was kind of funny.
It's a lot
And
like
Rory
her.
has the vest.
minute,
You wouldn't wear that going to Rio. It's
No.
like,
Yeah.
But I do like that there is a reason for her dressing like that in this episode, wherein, like we mentioned in Victory of the Daleks, you're in World War II, you wouldn't be wearing that.
Yeah.
Right, it's a little too late for me. I think
It
doesn't.
totally agree.
It's like it's a mute point at this. It's a moot point Amy, you've dressed this way the entire time. Have
Or-
you been hoping for Rio this entire time? Like,
That could have been the running gag.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
This is Rio? No, this is London World War II, the Blitz. Is this Rio? No, this is 2020 in Wales.
This isn't Pismo Beach. I should have taken that left turn at Albuquerque.
I did like the foreshadowing of Rory standing in a grave.
Didn't even think of that.
I had that note too.
Well, he's been dead before. The doctor discovers that the ground has been bioprogrammed to attack when the drill is turned on. They hear drilling under the ground and realize that something is on its way up. As they head outside, they see an energy barrier has surrounded the area, trapping them inside. Rory meets up with the doctor and asks about Amy. He tells Rory that he will get Amy back, and everyone goes into the nearby church to use as a safe camp against whatever is on its way up.
So before we discuss that, I forgot to mention the sound of what we know now as the Silurians drilling. It sounds like, or transporting is it sounds like the echo of the Dalek fire. I don't know if you guys recognize that either.
No, I didn't think that.
I forgot to mention that because you first hear it when Mo gets sucked down.
Later on in the Silurian areas, the sound effects are from Star Trek the original series.
Speaking of the church, that's another connection to Father's Day, where the doctor, something's going on, and then he says, "Go to the church. It's the oldest and safest place to be."
Right.
I like the quick thing of Rory, who is still he just doesn't like the doctor at this point, and where he's just like, well, can't you just open the door, just sonic it? It's like it doesn't work on wood, and I love Rory just being like, well, that doesn't make any sense, and the doctor's like, don't diss the sonic. I mean, that to me encapsulates their relationship at this point, where it's Rory's like, I am not impressed with you, and the doctor is just like, you don't know. What you're saying.
I really like how, even though Rory is a very meek character and personality, he has no problem yelling at the doctor and arguing and saying this isn't right.
When it has to deal with Amy.
Yeah, it has to deal with Amy. And it also goes along with when we first saw him. He was trying to uncover something with the doctors in the hospital, to the doctors in the hospital, and no one would listen to him. And that actually goes along very well with where his character goes as the series moves on. Maybe. I can't say too much.
That's interesting that you say meek. Why do you think he's meek?
Because he's bumbling. He can't wrap his words around his thoughts.
He's unsure of himself.
He's unsure of himself. He's looked at as what would we typically call a nerd or a geeky type of personality. And there was comparison to him and then the handsome next door neighbor.
He has an inferiority complex.
Yes, he there's even the whole thing about him being a nurse, not a doctor. That's connotated there.
Which he's the one always bringing up. It's not really brought up to anybody else.
Yeah. He's also painted to be a bit henpecked by Amy, who doesn't even give him much mind. So his just whole demeanor is meek in traditional ways, and that's why I really like that. You really can't push him around. The only thing he doesn't have is either experience or masterful verbiage. He accepts himself to be so humble, like he embraces his humble nature and has no ego, but he'll stand up for himself and only gets pushed around when he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, I just find it, because I don't see him as meek, so I just found that interesting. I think everything that you said and why you see him as meek, I agree with. I see him more as like an easygoing guy. That's how I would describe him. I would never describe him as meek, so that was just interesting that's how you see him.
I see that's how he's being painted.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I see him as very meek at this point.
And more so earlier. I mean, as time goes on, he's yelling at the doctor more and more.
Well, yeah.
I see him as an easygoing guy who struggles with self-confidence.
That's meek.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Take it from one who knows. I've had plenty of mirrors over the years to tell me that.
Oh my god, that was perfect.
How are you now, though?
Shut up. Very meta.
One thing just as we're talking about Rory's character, he is always the first one to check in on everybody else. Like anything happens,
It's true.
he's the one that says, "Is everyone okay? Are you okay?" Like because he's a nurse, and so that's very much in character. Like
Right.
Caregiver.
yeah. Well, the one other thing that I really liked during this paragraph was when the doctor was first talking to Nazreen and Tony. He was very complimentary that they got to the depth that they got.
right.
Like
Yeah.
even though we find that it's a dangerous situation, in the moment the doctor is still impressed by her, which I
Right.
think really is nice for their continued
Yeah.
relationship during this episode, these two episodes.
And that to me felt very 10th Doctor. Like you human beings, you just can't keep human beings down.
Or from going down. Going down the
We got
drilling? No,
No,
that's
no,
right.
no,
Let's talk about drilling.
Ambrose and Elliot learn that Mo is missing, and the doctor has everyone set up.
Hey, where's Mo?
Hey, I thought it.
We all thought it. And the doctor has everyone set up every piece of equipment they can find, sensors, cameras, etc., as a network so he can monitor what is coming up from the earth below. He rigs the makeshift network so he can send a pulse from his sonic to incapacitate whatever comes up, if necessary. Ambrose starts gathering weapons for defense, but the doctor says that they are not his style and she can do better. Elliot tells the doctor he is going to get his headphones and runs outside the church. The barrier dome becomes black, blotting out the sun.
Okay.
I agree.
I know time is wibbly wobbly, but 6 minutes to do what the A team usually takes 15 minutes to do. I just can't. I could not get past. I'll believe alien. I'll believe lizard people from the ground. I will not believe they could have done all that in 6 minutes. Just drawing the picture of the building itself on the map with many pictures alone would have taken 10 minutes by someone who was even a professional artist.
Oh, that's what it is.
Well, it's that.
Oh,
It's that climbing up to hang a camera and getting it in place would have taken 5 minutes, let alone climbing down and going to the church. I'm sorry, but I can't deal with the wibbly wobbliness of 6 minutes. I get it, because I was watching it specifically. As soon as I started to get annoyed, I remembered this about this show, and then I was like, could they have said 12 minutes? Was there anything specific to 6? They could have said 20 minutes. They could have just said a different amount of time, and it still would have felt dangerous. Done.
Here's my issue with it. It's another thing of unnecessary padding. Because literally, why in all the times of trying to find out something, scan something, do something, does he this time you have to collect all the equipment so that everybody's got something to do? Whereas every other script, he would have just pointed the sonic down and went, shh, oh, wow, something's coming up. It just drives me nuts.
And again, on first viewing, I think it's exciting, and it kind of gets you in the mood, like, oh, they're going to do that, and then, what we'll find out, that it didn't even work, because they shut it all down.
Yeah, it was a great plan until the power goes out.
Yeah. And it's a lot of misleads, and it adds a lot of tension, and I understand, like, maybe it was at 20 minutes, but they made it 6 minutes to add tension, but it just was, it felt very obvious in that regard.
It was to show the kid has value, even if he is dyslexic and can't write out what he's initially supposed to be doing. It's like, no, you can still do this and show that you still have value. And to show the doctor is a pacifist and doesn't want to use the guns that Ambrose got.
All good things. But why 6? There's no reason for it to be 6 minutes. It's just too unrealistic. 10 minutes is scary. 20 minutes is scary. It's all scary. It could have been shot it could have not been changed at all except for the word 6. Sorry.
And I would have cut the whole damn thing. Well, I would not have cut the guns scene. To me, that's a completely different issue. The problem I have with that scene is I don't like Matt Smith's read on it, where he gives it a little too much menace. Where it's like, put it away or you'll regret it.
It was a threatening tone.
Yeah.
Because it seems the reason he wants her to put the guns away is the reason he's using the same method that I think...
He's threatening.
So it doesn't work for me in that aspect.
The way he stares her down like that, he threatens her into not being threatening.
Yeah.
Right. I think there could have been a way to say that line without the menace.
I mean, I will say this though, that there is this motif with this doctor at this point, you know, because even when he's talking to Elliot, he says, "Are you scared of monsters?" "No, they're scared of me." So there's this whole ego that is developed with this doctor up to this point by now, and I think that even goes into the part of the show where he disregards that the boy is going to run out to get his headphones and, you know, in danger, because he feels so powerful that he just doesn't even think to protect a child, because he treats because I guess in a way, to a Time Lord, all humans are children, you know, for as long as they're old, forgetting that this is just a kid.
This doctor doesn't see peripherally
Right.
like the other doctors have.
You're right, but I do, folks. So even though I kind of agree with what you were saying, Brian, and I don't like it. I think it is sort of something that is consistent. Which doctor is this? The 11th Doctor, which he will grow out of. But I kind of like that. Like, and he realizes he did wrong when it happens.
But that he misses the whole point of Elliot going, "I'm going to go home and get my headphones."
Right.
You know, it's like, no. Any of the other doctors would say, "No, you're staying here." And that's so unique to this doctor in other episodes as well, just showing you're missing parts of the picture. And the doctor, at least in the reincarnation since 2005, doesn't miss those things. They're adding up and he's seeing it in his head. And later on, this doctor, I think, develops that. But he lost that ability.
And that's probably, now, you know, we're talking about Amy and her character development over time. That might be something that has been planned. Like, this is not a long con, but a bit of a long con, for a character arc that at the moment if we haven't watched it further episodes, we're not aware of yet. So I think it's very interesting and deeper than we probably think it is.
What you said, Josh, about Elliot, the conversation with the doctor, the monsters are afraid of me. It's a callback to the 10th Doctor in Girl in the Fireplace when he speaks to young Renette, or Madame de Pompadour, and he says, the same line, and then goes back into time, or the future, and then comes back and she's older.
That's another episode where he's just flippant and disregards a child or another, young woman in this case, like not even thinking about the consequences to her and stuff like that.
Yeah, but in that case, it's more justified because of the way that time doesn't work for him, like it does in here.
Yeah.
Anyway, that scene to me, or what we're talking about, the negatives, I feel like maybe it might have been a producer note. Like, you need to take time, develop some of these characters, and then this was the best way that it could have been done.
Again, it didn't make me like the episode less, but it did take me out of the moment for about 6 minutes.
Because I do like that the Doctor does spend time with Elliot, because it's addressing the children that are watching the show, and then who might have dyslexia. So I thought that was nice to have him be useful despite his, handicap or disability.
Honestly, Josh, I never considered the 6-minute time limit until you brought it up.
Yeah, well,
didn't even get, because maybe I was too much of, why are they collecting electronic equipment? This is stupid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I tend to notice things about how long things take.
Yeah.
I'm someone
once
who
you point it out, it makes
10
perfect.
minutes.
I mean, it takes me at least a half hour to 40 minutes to set up for this podcast. So, to set up the surveillance grid on the whole city in 6 minutes is definitely suspension of disbelief. Yeah.
And where did they get all the equipment? Why is that in the church? It just wasn't explained that they would have all these small cameras around.
Well, I think
it was the rummage sale that didn't happen.
Right.
After the city was abandoned.
Yeah. Because they couldn't find how to pronounce the name.
They went to the wrong
Yeah.
This isn't Steve.
I took it as their house is nearby, some stuff's in their car. It wasn't the whole city, it was just like the localized area.
No, in the basement, they didn't say why, but the basement had a lot of electronics.
Oh, maybe it was
The basement of the church.
Sure. That's just it. You can think up excuses for a number of things, but there's too many things.
We don't want to think up the excuses. We want it there. There's a reason.
We're just not.
You can have one of those an episode. You can't have 16.
Yeah.
And this
I guess
episode
that's
to me
what
Or 6.
I was trying to say that. I just couldn't find my words. I was too meek.
On a positive note, I love it when they played the music. I Am the Doctor.
Oh yeah, it was a great moment.
In cello.
Yeah.
I love that sound.
And
And it's the whole planning for heroics as they're starting to go, we're going to beat this, get all the equipment you can,
Yeah.
we're going to string it up, and in 6 minutes we're going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Another good note is when the barrier dome blots out the sun. I thought that was the continuity from going from day to night shooting was great.
And also added to the creepiness factor
Yeah.
because we don't know what the villain is yet, but
Yeah.
we're still in this kind of horror-y.
He put the infrared glasses on, and that's how he knew they were reptilian.
Which again, seriously, the sunglasses?
I was wondering if that was a precursor
That's
to
what I was- that's
the
what I
next
was
Doctor.
thinking.
Is that they're the same exact glasses? I think.
The same type
No,
of
they're
style.
not sonic
no?
glasses.
But they're the same type of style.
Well, okay.
That's the thing.
Aren't they Wayfarers?
Yeah.
The same. Yeah.
We didn't want okay.
What?
Nothing.
You want to plug Wayfarer?
Yeah, I didn't want to plug them.
No free rides.
But if they
knows
would
that?
like to sponsor the podcast, I mean, I
Yeah.
think we would be more than
This
open.
episode's been brought to you by Wayfarers, the Doctor's sunglasses.
Copyright Ray-Ban. Ray-Ban.
I did say that I thought Elliot was a really good actor.
Oh, he was. Yeah, he
I thought-
was.
His reaction, and he's like paying attention. He's like right there in the moment. I thought, okay,
I did
this
have
guy's
a-
gonna be something. He's gonna continue acting, hopefully.
Probably. Well, we should look him up. But I did feel with his accent, though, I don't know exactly what kind it was. Welsh, I assume. It was a little hard to understand him sometimes.
Yeah, Elliot is played by Samuel Davis, and he hasn't really done a lot. He's done most recently High Tide, and then he was in the TV series Casualty. And then before Doctor Who, he was in Framed, a TV movie, and Thunderpants.
Back to his conversation with the doctor talking about the monsters. In the next part, Molokai, the doctor from the race we're going to meet, has a line where he says, "They aren't monsters and neither are we." So I thought that was a nice, like, connection between the parts of, like, what does it mean to be a monster? What does it mean to be a person? And, like, how do we treat each other?
Yes.
Yeah.
The ground begins to tremble, blowing out the power. Ambrose notices Elliot is gone and berates the doctor for letting him go. Outside, Elliot is being chased by a creature who grabs him just as he reaches the church door. When Ambrose runs outside and finds the headphones, she is attacked by a lizard creature, but her father Tony pushes the beast off of her. It strikes Tony in his neck with its tongue, infecting him with poison. The doctor sends everyone back inside the church and searches for the cold-blooded creature. No, literally, cold-blooded. And realizes who they are. He uses a fire extinguisher to temporarily bring down the body temperature of the creature, then he and Rory lock it inside of Anne.
The old sticking door on the church trick.
This is another case, like the doctor not being the hero. He lets Elliot get captured just like Amy is lost to the ground. So it feels odd that the doctor, who is the hero of the show, is sort of not heroic in his results. It's not who I want the doctor to be,
Yeah, I agree.
and it's not who we've known him to be.
I did like his reaction of, I should have seen that with Elliot. His recognition of what he did.
And to me, if they had played again that waving scene in the beginning, that everything's going to be fine, we're going to figure this out, and him trusting or having false confidence in that, allowing him to make these mistakes, I think that this would have sat better with me on a character story level.
And I didn't get from him the conviction that he is going to get them back. He didn't have that passion that I've seen in Tenet, or even Eccleston when he's saying to Rose at the end of the first season, when he's talking to the Daleks, "You're scared because I am coming for you and I am going to get you back." And she's surrounded by Daleks and you still believe him. And that's such a different feel of the Doctor that I think those of us who came along with Tennant's run in Eccleston, it's like that's what's missing, and that's why we didn't connect with Matt Smith's version of him.
For us, Frank, this Matt Smith, though, was the first new Doctor we had week by week by week. We didn't know what was coming next.
Yeah, but I mean, we're a lot more accepting. I'm going, what is it? I'm just trying to analyze my own
I think you're
ideas
right.
of this could be part of the reasons that were not tangible before. Going, what is it about this Doctor that's just not feeling right? It's feeling off. It's not the Doctor we've known.
The other thing about this scene where Ambrose is yelling at the Doctor, he's practically at a loss for words. And there is actually one point where she's like, he was out there all alone. And they cut to the Doctor, who says nothing. And then, they immediately cut to outside with Elliot running. And that's so un-Doctor-like.
But I like that.
Yeah, that I liked. But that's a change where it's like, wow, this Doctor seems out of his element. He's not. Everything turns out okay in the end. But
I think that's what makes this season and this Doctor stand the test of time. And going back to it, I think, but we've spoken about it before, where it was time for a change. There was just a lot of macho Doctor energy, and it was just, Tennant was there for so long, and that Davies era of being so grandiose to start seeing the Doctor screw up. I think it was time.
I'm liking this a lot more watching it this time because I have distance from the past. So it is recognizing what he's doing and that this is such a fallible Doctor. He doesn't have the same words, and he's lost for words at that scene, which I think was done really well. And I think that's a lot of who the Matt Smith Doctor realizes it can be. So it's just, that's his personality, and so I like it more now. But it's at least it's showing off, going, this could be the reason why I didn't like it at the beginning when I first saw it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was expecting something different from it.
But it actually made me think in a moment when he didn't have anything to say. It occurred to me that when she said he was out there all alone, he may have actually been thinking, like, I know what that feels like. I can't even be alone. I always have to have companions and things like that. I'm alone. I'm the only one left of my kind. He's known alone for what it means in your bones, and to think of a little boy out there like that.
I do like the effect from the Silurian helmets, though, whenever they're scanning and they do the heat thing.
Yes.
I think that's really fun and adds to, like, the mysterious horror feel of it. Like, what's this creepy thing coming at me, and it's seeing me different. And
Yes.
And the way that their helmets looked like actual real creatures, it was carved in a certain
a
way.
very
to make
cheap
this-
way to make a lot of masks for people.
But also that it didn't look like a metal mask.
Yeah.
Well, I understand it was the Doctor had met Silurians before. That's why
Or
you knew
some
who they were.
form of them, he said.
Right. So
Yes.
this was more of that look
Right.
that they based the mask on
Oh.
for the classic Who.
Yes,
Oh, it was a classic Who thing?
yes.
The makeup improved greatly.
It's the first appearance is Doctor Who and the Silurians with the third Doctor, John Pertwee, and they look, it's like a helmet, it's not a mask. And it didn't allow for any emotion from the actors because you just saw the mask. And they kind of talked like this. And they had a third eye, and they removed the third eye because it was too reminiscent of Davros. It's like, how can you put in a little line like that to make it okay that they don't look like the classic version, but you couldn't do any other things for these other things we're bringing up? Like just drop in a line here or there.
Yeah.
The capture of Alea, the Silurian, was really cool. I like that, like the reflection in the mirror, and
Yes.
how the Doctor saw it was like running up to him. And then the Meals on Wheels van, the back was also cooled, so that was a good little
I
like
didn't even think of that.
connection.
See, that's another thing, too. They probably thought that was so obvious, but it wasn't obvious. I just thought it was a van.
Yeah, it was a very quick line.
Oh, they did have
Like when he was looking at it when I think Ambrose was bringing the weapons. He was like, oh, the front is heated and the back is cooled.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
I know, it
Yeah.
went by
Didn't
very
catch that.
fast.
Yeah.
Again, classic Who. Information is given to you very quickly.
Also in that capture, I feel like that was the first time we started hearing more of the human actor. Like you
Yeah.
started to hear of
Like she
female
would scream,
scream or
yeah.
grunts or something that was starting to clue us in that these aren't monsters. These are more sentient beings.
Amy wakes up underneath a transparent barrier. A distorted figure approaches as gas fills her container, and she is asleep once again. The Doctor and Rory take their prisoner to the basement of the church so the Doctor can talk to her. She is Alea, part of a species that has been asleep under the earth. The drill threatened their life support systems, so her section, the warrior class, was woken to address the threat. The war against the humans has started, and they plan to destroy the vermin infesting their planet, these primitive apes calling themselves humans.
I really didn't like her calling people apes. I found it to be very, like, our vernacular, who knows if these people are thousands of years old, they might not have even been apes. To use such, and I understand it's the TARDIS translating whatever their term may be, but I found it to be so specific.
But in the next episode, they explained there were apes, and they used to hunt them.
I still found it, but I understand they used it because they needed to show their attitude towards us. I found it to be too vernacular driven. The same way the horns in the Satan pit in 6 minutes and stuff like that. It bumps me.
Josh, when the Doctor took off Alea's mask, I thought of a Simpsons reference. When I believe Bart or Lisa goes and meets one of the voice actors for something else.
right.
For the dog, I think.
For,
Smoochie?
Poochie was the dog, but-
And it was a woman doing the
it
voice
was
acting.
June Foray, yeah.
Yeah, and she's like, she's a lady, a beautiful lady. Like, That
It was itchy and scratchy.
But yeah, when that mask comes off and it's finally revealed, like, this is a female actor playing this part, and the doctor even says, "You're beautiful," like, that just ran through my head. I thought of you.
It's funny because for some reason I thought of the Itchy and Scratchy Land, where they remove the faceplate off of the robot and it screams. It goes, and they're like, I wish you wouldn't do that. Because it looks like that mask is the face.
Yeah.
So I thought he was just going to remove the face.
Like, how do you know that's a mask and not
Yeah.
their face? Yeah.
Because the Silurians didn't look like that before.
Well, it would have been a fun callback even later in this episode if the Silurian doctor was like, "I'm going to remove your mask now,"
Right.
to Amy.
He's like, no, I'm not wearing a mask.
I thought the makeup though was great.
I will agree with you there. That's amazing stuff.
And I love the
There must be
actor.
something not that, I mean, I'm speaking out of turn, I know, not that hard to do about lizard people makeup, because back in the movie The Last Starfighter, Robert Preston had similar makeup, and it looked just as good, and that was in the 80s. So I think there's something about the segmented scales and the way it can adhere to the
And you can
face
hide all the
prosthetically.
seams.
Yeah, I think, because same thing, and it worked really great, yeah.
That wasn't Robert Preston. That was
In The Last Starfighter?
yeah. That
Yeah, it
was
was?
not with the lizard. It
Oh.
was Dan O'Hurley.
You're right. You're right.
Family
Well,
friend.
Robert Preston played the other one.
Yeah, he played the other the salesman con artist guy.
He was a friend of our family's.
Robert Preston?
O'Hurley.
Anna Hurley.
Uh-huh.
Very Irish. Very, very Irish. Incredibly Irish.
He also plays the old man in the the original RoboCop movies.
And to jump timeline a little bit, is this the same actress that will continue to play our Silurian? But it's not the same.
Not the same character, but the same actress.
Okay.
But they mentioned that too, about the genetic line.
But even after these two parters, like,
Oh.
is it still the same
Yes.
actress? Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
And this sass I did like from Amy. Did you just shush me?
Yeah, yeah.
That I did like.
That was kind of like a Donna moment almost.
The Doctor plans to descend into the Earth and negotiate with the tribe of Silurians living below. While he is gone, those left in the church need to keep Elias safe so that they can trade her for the others. The Doctor reminds them that they must be the best humanity can be so this negotiation can go well. Tony and Ambrose reluctantly agree. The Doctor and Nazarene take the TARDIS below, where the Silurians hijack it, bringing it down even further than the drilling goes. The Doctor and Nazarene are in a series of tunnels deep within the Earth and find a huge city of Silurians.
The Doctor's speech here that nobody dies today reminded me of the Doctor Dances, where Eccleston does the same thing, but I didn't feel it in this episode.
Agreed.
Only Nazarene like claps, like she starts to clap, and then it's the awkward stop because nobody else is clapping with her.
Oh, yeah,
but
that's great.
I was with her in that moment because I do that.
Well, it also
in
sets
scenes,
this
so-
character up for where she
Or
goes.
where she
in
goes.
the
Yeah,
next
literally where she goes.
episode.
Physically where she goes.
I don't think the Doctor knows his audience. He already has Rory following him. Even after he's lost Amy, he goes, "Rory, I need you, and you have to be there, and we'll be okay." And Nazarene's part of it. She's with Rory. I'm like, "No, this is good." She applauds. The other two have already said, "Well, shouldn't we do something? Shouldn't we have her, dissect her, figure out how to fight against them?" And his daughter Ambrose has already gotten weapons. It's like, you look at these people and they're going to be aggressive. Alea is very aggressive. And so they're just responding in force. And I don't think this speech addresses that at all.
Well, yeah, but his idea of the human race, he's caught in his own rhetoric.
But
And
that,
this-
True.
I was going to say that feels inconsistent because what we've been discussing before, where the Doctor can't see the forest for the trees.
I think it's his perfect way of the double writing that there's been going on in the season of him saying, "I'm making perfect sense. You're just not keeping up." And he doesn't realize that's reversed. They're not keeping up, and he's going on without them, and he doesn't have them where he needs them to be at this
Exactly.
point because he's not paying attention to that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no, what you just said. Yes, they're not keeping up. So bring them along, get them up to speed.
And maybe that's because Amy's not with him, because Rory doesn't know him that well to tell him.
That's part of it. I mean,
I don't
isn't-
think Amy would. I think the past companions would.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is like the main companion is the one to tell him to stop. And you are being crazy or you're being rude. Don't do that and start talking to these people like people.
Oh, I don't
Right.
see him being rude. I just see him. It's just a not.
And that's an example that I'm using from the other Doctor.
Right. Okay. He does have
It's
a
just
great
a-
line, though. I mean, I love it when Ambrose says, "You're going to go and talk to these aliens," and he's like, "They aren't aliens. They're Earth Silurians. This is their planet too. But the problem is that argument's never going to work on Ambrose, ever.
Yeah, that's what makes me feel that this doctor is inconsistent, because he can look at the Silurians that way, but he can't look at how to talk to these people in the church that way.
I mean, he's talking to Nazarene that way. I mean, saying that to Nazarene is perfect thing to say.
She gets it, yeah.
But she's the one that's going to go with him. He needs the rest of them to keep Alea alive.
Right.
And to me, that's a little... It's like, that's important. You see these people wanting to bring guns, and then you're just going to say, do the thing I need you to do. Bye. You're not going to ensure that they don't mess this up. It just feels off for me.
He gives humans too much credit.
You would kind of think, a young mother of a child living in Wales wouldn't kill a captive prisoner.
Not when she thinks that captive prisoner is responsible for her own child dying, though.
He did explain, now we have a hostage, so we can use that to get back their hostages.
Yeah.
And that I get his plan there. I just felt it was too easy for him to leave them with that much responsibility.
Well, there was an agenda in the story that we needed to compare Ambrose and her father to the aliens.
Yeah.
Being the whole hypocrisy of that they're both angry at each other.
Earthlians.
Sorry.
And
Did I say aliens?
And
The
that
Silurians.
I totally get that. There's something about this scene that just doesn't ring, connect with me as much as I wanted to.
I wish they had done a few more passes on it, and they could have even have made it longer and cut out some of the fluff from earlier to really say that, Nazarene's on his side, Tony's kind of in the middle, and if he wasn't sick, he wasn't poisoned by him, he'd probably be a voice of reason too, and then Ambrose is just, no, I want them stopped.
And Nazarene wasn't supposed to go with him. He wasn't planning that.
Right.
So he thought she was going to be there, but then at the last moment, she's great. I love the way she does this. I love this actress. She just plays it so well, going, I spent my entire life. I'm going with you.
Yeah.
This is not an option.
When Nazarene when she's about to enter into the TARDIS, it just feels like the blocking is obvious. Like Matt Smith goes into the TARDIS, he closes the door very quickly, and then
Right.
and then Tony and Nazarene are outside. And the way, I don't remember who puts their hand on the door, but it feels like obvious to me that they don't want to open the door. And then when she walks through, I don't know, it's just funny. It's like,
They didn't set up so you could see inside.
yeah, it's like, don't open the door too long.
It's like, it really isn't that big. Matt Smith is just standing there behind the door.
Yeah.
Don't let him see.
And-
but she doesn't say it.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I love that. She doesn't say it's bigger on the inside.
Right, but I kind of felt like when they looked at each other, she was thinking it. And,
Yes.
Because he kind of was nodding back to her, like,
Yes.
yeah, I know.
Well, that's why I love that. She gets it.
Yeah,
she doesn't have to
yeah.
say it, but she's still feeling it.
She said with
And
her
it's-
eyes.
Yes.
And then when they get down to, I guess, the Earth's core or wherever the Silurians are at, I didn't know they were in Mexico because all of a sudden it's yellow.
Put a yellow filter over everything.
And we're south of the border.
I liked the reveal of the city under, in the center of the earth. It was very Journey to the Center of the Earth.
About a dozen or so, you say.
Small tribe.
About a
tribe,
dozen,
yeah.
you say. Okay.
Well, and I like how Nazarene has that little bit of shock entering the TARDIS, but quickly adapts, and then that's the last time she's shocked. So when she's walking around these tunnels going, oh, look, there's tunnels. Oh, look, there's a giant city. Okay.
Yeah, I like when they first get down to the center of the earth and the Doctor and Nazarene leave the TARDIS. They have a quick conversation, and then the Doctor gets to work right away and leaves, and she just has that one moment where she's like looking around to take it in, but then realizes that the Doctor's gone, so she has to catch up.
Yes.
That was,
Yes.
she would make a great companion.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Agreed.
Rory, Tony, and Ambrose go to see Alea, who toys with their minds, saying that one of them will kill her, beginning the war that will wipe out humans from the planet. Tony leaves and sees that the venom infection is spreading. Amy wakes up again and is now tied to a vertical medical bed next to a worn-out but living Mo. He has a large scar down his torso from the dissection medical procedures that have been done on him so far. A Silurian doctor turns his attention to Amy. When I hear dissection, I think you're gonna die from this procedure. So it's weird that Mo is still alive.
Yeah, well,
He put it in his back.
sci-fi
He got
technology.
I'm just
And didn't they even say like they did it to him while he was awake?
While he was awake.
yeah, awake.
Like it was just
Oh.
there's just a lot of stuff in this script that is for shock value or scare value or without just for the purpose of that idea and
without
not
the
really
logic.
without grounding it.
Yeah.
Like
I can see what you did there.
You did it with what I did. When we find out who the scientist is, then there's inconsistencies in some of the things he has done. Anyway.
And see, that's why I think that doctor wouldn't have dissected Mo based on what he's seen of the
Right, but we don't know
apes.
that yet.
But that's why this is hitting me in a
Right.
negative way
Yeah.
because I know who this character becomes.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's another thing that doesn't pay off properly.
And I explain it by being like, he's just not aware. It's like us, the way we treat our subspecies.
Yeah, but we still
know.
don't dissect animals when they're alive.
And they don't talk back either.
Well, I think,
And they don't
True.
talk back.
True,
but didn't we
like,
in the
we're a different
60s, 70s,
species, so-
1800s, didn't they do experiments and
Yeah.
all this stuff? Even 1900s,
Yeah, when
cutting
they would-
open
yeah,
the
and
brain
the-
and electrocuting live animals.
But
Yeah,
that
see
was
how it
back
works.
then.
That was back then. Not,
these-
not
I mean-
highly advanced. My point is this character turned out to be a very empathetic character.
And I would have been okay if this had been a different doctor, and then the other doctor in the second episode comes in and like, what are you doing?
Right. Yeah, like, well, this is what we always do.
Again, it's like a quick fix.
Because right now they're showing the Silurians as not being, as you put it,
not having empathy.
any kind of humanity, which is a bad term for this, but
Right,
empathy.
right.
They were
Earth
worse than the Klingons and Jem'Hadar put together.
Yeah, I tell you.
They are a warring race. They will dissect live beings, but that's what Tony was doing. So they're trying to do a parallel between humans and Silurians. But it's just putting them at such a threat.
Yeah.
Which I'm more on Josh's side going, this didn't pay off. This is the warring race are called that because that's all they think of. They're not three-dimensional kind of beings.
Right. And like Eugene said, other doctors may have done that, but this one. Anyway, we get the point of both sides.
As we mentioned, we have Aaliyah. She's played by Neve McIntosh, and she also plays Restak. And we will see her later, and I'll mention that when that happens.
We haven't met Restak yet, right?
Nope. But she is Madame Vastra.
I know Vostra isn't well liked in the
Really?
Who community, but I love her so much. It's like I wanted her to get her own spin-off.
And then Nazarene Chandri is played by Mira Shal, and she has been a fan of Doctor Who since she was a child, so it was a big deal for her to come onto the show.
That's super cool, because then her character does all that stuff.
I know.
So it could be why you feel it so much from her.
Yeah.
She's not a good actress. She's just really
Yeah.
loving this
Yeah.
part.
I've most recently seen her in Yesterday. She plays Sheila Malik, which is the mom of the main character, and she was in Doctor Strange. She played Dr. Patel. She was in the beginning scene. She was had her face covered in the operating room with Doctor Strange.
Oh, so you never see her? Because I recognize
Her
her.
eyes. She speaks with her eyes.
I did recognize her, but I don't know from what.
And she was in Broadchurch season 2
Maybe that's why.
as Judge Sonia Sharma.
Nutcracker in the Foreign Realms.
Tony Mack is played by Robert Pugh, P-U-G-H. He was in Game of Thrones season 2 and 3
Oh, okay.
as the master of Craster's Keep, that is beyond the wall. He was also in Torchwood season 2, the episode Adrift. He played Jonah. That's the episode where a teenager disappears. Ambrose is played by Nia Roberts.
She's not Felicia Day.
She is not. And then Mo is played by Alan, A-L-U-N, Raglan. He was in Gladiator as the Praetorian Guard number 1, and he was in Merlin as Serdan. And we mentioned earlier that Elliot is played by Samuel Davis. So, The Hungry Earth. Who is this episode good for? Or more specifically, this episode is good for who? A new viewer, a casual viewer, a fan of the show, or a diehard?
I don't think I would use this episode to introduce Doctor Who to somebody, but I did really enjoy it. So I won't say for a new Who viewer, but I will say for a casual viewer. Like, I think if you understand the Doctor a little bit, or if you like Amy and Rory, it's a good episode, and it's nice to get some of that groundwork for later with the Silurians. And yeah, but I can't say no, so I'm gonna go with casual.
I'm trying to think if there's anything in this episode that would confuse people if they only knew a little bit about the Doctor, because I want to put it in the casual category, because I remember liking this the first time I saw it, but I don't think it's one that many fans go back and rewatch, which is what I classify as good for a fan, is one that's like enjoyable for a fan to go back and rewatch over and over again. I like this episode. I like the second half. I'm gonna go with casual, because I agree with Auburn. I don't think I would use this to introduce, because I do think there's a little bit more that I would want a viewer to know about the Doctor and Amy and Rory before just being like, watch this. But I don't know. I'm gonna change mine to you. I don't know why you guys make me go first. I should just go last after
second.
Eugene.
We'll remember that from now on.
Not second. I'm actually, you know what? I'm gonna say new, because
I'm gonna change my. No.
I don't want to have what you're having.
I'm just gonna stick to casual, but I'm gonna stick with casual. But yes.
I'm on the fence between a new and casual. Seems to be the place to be. The thing that's keeping me from new is that it's a two-parter. And mostly, if you're going to have a new viewer, you want to show them just a one episode. But that being said, because I don't think anything really you don't need to know anything really before this. You kind of get the idea of it. Yes, there's a lot more involved with Rory and Amy, but you understand the relationship in this point. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'll say, yeah, for a new viewer. Maybe not exactly the first one to show, but I think a new viewer, yes. I'll go for a new viewer.
I'm going to say new. I don't think this is the best episode. I don't think it's a great episode to start someone out on, but I think if someone who's never watched it before, this is fine. You don't need to know anything. It's all there on the page. And also, even the fact that it is a two-parter, I think, creates a little bit more, what's going to happen? Anything that makes you want to watch when you haven't seen it before. And also, too, everything that we've said that we've sort of complained about, we've also said first-time viewing, it was fine. So I think first-time viewing, this is all some cool stuff. There's somebody waving over there. Oh, my God, that's them in the future. Aside from that 6-minute bit, I really liked it. But it's not as strong as other ones, but I don't think... I think it actually would probably work better for a new viewer.
I'm also going to say new viewer. I don't particularly like this episode, but I think this episode lays everything out very plainly, and somebody who's new would be able to follow it. I mean, you even get that scene with, why are you wearing the engagement ring? I'm going to go put the engagement ring back. So now you've been told that these two are engaged. You find out about their dynamic really quick. The only thing, well, we're not there yet. Never mind. But yeah, new, because I think it is so padded. It explains a lot more that new people would like. And like Josh says, the first time you watch it, you don't catch it. It's only on repeat viewings.
One quick note is that there's a deleted scene between Amy and the Doctor discussing how she had seen herself with Rory 10 years into the future, and if that would really happen. But it did not make it to the final cut, so therefore we don't have that.
Is it on the DVD?
Yes, it is on the DVDs.
Okay.
It's very quick, and I can see why they cut it. For me, I want to say this is for a casual viewer, and I'm on the fence as well, because there is a lot of things that you can use to introduce somebody to Doctor Who with, but ultimately I don't hear anybody talking about this episode. I don't find myself rewatching this episode. So for that fact, it pushes it over into the casual category for me. So that wraps up The Hungry Earth. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time when the future becomes the present.
You've just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook at The Universe Explodes.
All our episodes are engineered by Auburn.
You can find him at auburnbinkley.com.
You can also find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/whoknewpodcast.
All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
Visit our Facebook page.
Please leave comments, reviews, and click like to help support Who Knew Podcast.
To listen to our show on your Amazon Echo device, enable the AnyPod podcast skill. Ask AnyPod to play the Who Knew Podcast.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who,
the longest-running sci-fi show in history.
And especially the revival, spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
Thanks to Russell,
Sydney Newman,
Verity Lambert,
Ron Grainer,
Delia Derbyshire,
and all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
your work continues to inspire and entertain.
So the Who Knew podcast is going to be attending Rose City Comic Con in Portland, Oregon this September. And Heather was nice enough to approach us and ask us to fill in their Doctor Who programming.
Yes, we definitely wanted the podcast to come to the show. And I know you guys have a couple panels, right?
Yes, we do. But I want to talk about the main panel with Christopher Eccleston and Billy Piper on Saturday at 5:15 in Room 1. I'm just going to read this from the website. Join us for this extra-large panel. First up, she's one of the most beloved companions in Doctor Who, Billy Piper, Rose. Then midway through, you'll get to see the man who helped bring the series back to greatness, Christopher Eccleston. If you're a Whovian, this is a panel you won't want to miss. And again, this is in Room 1, and it starts at 5:15, and it's going to run about 80 minutes long.
And then also on Saturday, before you go to that panel, we're going to be having a Doctor Who cosplay meetup in the afternoon at 3 o'clock.
Hooray.
I know several members, or maybe just a few members of the podcast are going to be there, so you can come by and say hi and take pictures.
Yes, I will definitely be dressed up.
Yes, so we'll probably take several pictures. So whether you're a companion, a villain, a doctor, there'll be a good photo op for you guys.
Cool. And then on Sunday, we have 2 panels. The first one is going to be in room 4, and that starts at noon, 12 p.m. It's going to be our Doctor Who Series 5 or Season 5 overview, and that'll be about 50 minutes long, or 45 minutes long, depending. For many people, Matt Smith was their first Doctor. With Jodie Whittaker's first season wrapped, we'll be taking a retrospective look back to Season 5 and discuss how it was being introduced to a new Doctor. How did you feel? What were the overarching themes and clues? How was it different? What did we like and what did we not like? How was the Doctor? How was the season overall? And what impact did it have on the grand scheme of things? So that is in room 4 at 12 on Sunday. And then again and then after that in room 4 still, we will be doing Doctor Who trivia. We'll be playing a Doctor Who trivia game amongst our podcast panelists in a game show fashion. The audience will be the lifeline for the panelists if they get stuck. See as our panelists test their Doctor Who knowledge. Trivia will cover the 9th Doctor all the way up to the 13th Doctor. So hopefully we will see some of you listeners there. We will also have some giveaways for those of you who participate. Some other things, Heather, do you want to mention about the photo ops?
Yeah, Christopher Eccleston is going to be a guest on Saturday. He'll be there all day. He's doing his signings in the morning, his ops in the afternoon, and then the panel with Billy Piper will be later that day. Billy will also be doing those things, but I believe she is going to be there Sunday as well. This is Christopher Eccleston's first time doing a convention in the U.S.
I know, it's going to be nice.
So it's pretty exciting. People have been waiting a long time.
Yeah, I know I have.
The convention itself is at the Oregon Convention Center, September 13th through the 14th.
The 15th, right?
I'm sorry, three days. Yeah, September 13th through the 15th. There's going to be Doctor Who stuff happening all 3 days. So I hope we see you all there in person.
Yeah, I do too. We'll have some new buttons to give out as well. So if you are in the greater northwest of the United States, specifically the Portland, Oregon area, we hope to see you at Rose City Comic Con in September.
It is September though, oh my god.
So you buried that hatchet? Oh, so nobody laughed at that pun?
I don't get that pun.
Buried?
Buried.
Hungry Earth? Well, that's a stretch.
Wow.
Oh, geez.
All right, let's get grounded.
All right.